Hello, brothers and sisters. I'm Robbie Gadd, one of your negotiators from the St. Louis Ramp.
And I'm Ed Green, one of your negotiators from Midway Ops. We want to thank everyone who's called in the last few days during our phone banks, and we'd like to encourage you to call in the next 3 weeks during the select days that our phone banks will be open as well.
Today, we've asked our communications director, Eric Peterson, to go over some frequently asked questions that we've been seeing over the phone banking, through email, and on social media. So let's get to these questions and let's get you some answers.
All right, Chuck Surf from Harlingen. A lot of new members voting on this contract, a lot of members that have never voted on a contract before. First of all, who is eligible to vote on this TA?
The eligible voters will be those members that are in good standing with the union and who have completed their probationary period by March 6th.
Okay, and what does somebody do if they have not received their ballot?
If you haven't received your PIN number in the mail, you'll want to call the office after March 12th and get your unique PIN number so you can vote.
And the phone number?
Phone number is 1-800-595-7672.
All right, thanks, Chuck.
Thank you.
All right, Robbie, how do I move through the wage scale?
So, if this agreement is ratified on April 1st, you will move horizontally to the right on the pay scale, which will be the date of ratification. From there, on the anniversary of your hire date, you will move down vertically. After that, on April 1st of 2025, the anniversary of the date of ratification, you will move horizontally to the right again, and so on and so forth as you stair-step down the scale.
All right, thanks.
Ed Green from Midway, how will my bonus be paid out?
Your bonus will be paid into your account like your normal paycheck is. So if you receive direct deposit, you're going to have your bonus direct deposited. The contract requires the company to make the payments within 60 days, so anytime during that 60-day period, you could receive your bonus. It's important to remember that bonus is 401k eligible. That means that you can put up to 50% of your bonus into your 401k, and you can put zero in if that's what you want. We strongly recommend that you go to the Empower retirement account, look at what your settings are, because there's going to be a settings for regular paycheck and a settings for bonus. Check the bonus setting and make sure it's the amount that you want to go in. The company will match up to 9.3%, just like they do on regular pay. One other thing to remember is that the bonus monies are considered for your total income for the year when the company figures profit sharing, so that will help you as well.
So, Chuck, if this TA is ratified, when will our raise go into effect and when will the bonus be paid out?
Okay. Your new raise, if the contract is ratified, will go into effect on April 1st, and the bonus will be paid within 60 days of ratification.
And that would be March 21st?
That would be March 21st, that's correct. And as far as our new work rules go, they go into effect as soon as the contract is ratified, unless specifically spelled out that it doesn't go into effect when the contract's ratified in the TA.
All right, Ed, so the covered work parameters are specified in the new TA, but there seems to be some loopholes where a supervisor may step in to stabilize the operation. What does that language mean?
Well, first, let's look at what we're replacing in the contract. The Black Book specifically says that supervisors may continue to perform covered work. Now, we lined through that section and we took away that broad supervisors can step in thing that the company and the union have been fighting about for years now. And we created lists and made very specific parameters on what a supervisor can and cannot do. Now, there are some exceptions. First off, if there's something that is a major catastrophe, or if there's an active shooter, something like that, we're talking about exceptions that are not every day. We're not talking about irregular ops allowing the company a loophole, because that's one of the questions we asked them directly. Does this language give your supervisors a loophole? And we have them on record as saying, no, this is not about a loophole. This is about something catastrophic. The other concern that we discussed with the company was the fact of call-offs. Their concern was in a small operation. If you have two ops agents and they both call in sick, how do you run your operation? And so when we're talking about call-offs, we're not talking about two call-offs at midway causing some catastrophe. What we're talking about is a small operation where if both ops agents call off and nobody answers the phone to come in, or somebody does answer the phone for the overtime and says, but I can't be there for an hour and a half, the company's concern was that they can keep the operation going. Now, in our discussions, we discussed about the fact that they can help with the immediate need. This doesn't mean that they can say there's a need at 7 o'clock, a need at 8 o'clock, a need at 9 o'clock, and then jump into each of those 3 flights. If there's a call-off that creates this kind of situation, they can help until the other person comes in. And the other thing is, when we're talking about catastrophic, we're talking about things that destabilize the operation. And once again, we've mentioned the active shooter. We've mentioned an outlandish storm, not just snow in Denver. They want the ability to jump in and help get the operation going again. So no, this is not a carte blanche for them to do our jobs. This is not a loophole for them to jump in whenever they want to. This is very specific, and if they violate it, we are confident that is a grievance that we will win. But as members, for this to work, you've got to file the grievances.
What is a scenario where I would be guaranteed a lunch under Article 6B?
Okay. With the new language we have in Article 6B, you'll get your lunch between your 4th and the end of the 6th hour of your shift. If you don't get a lunch, you finish your immediate task, and I'll give you an example, would be you're working a flight, it's after the 6th hour, now you want to notify your soup that you haven't got a lunch, and you'll be able to take your lunch as soon as you finish working that flight.
And what's the key there?
The key there is notifying your supervisor that you haven't had a lunch and that you're going to take your lunch once you complete your task.
So the new language in maternity leave states, the maternity leave will continue for up to 6 weeks for natural birth or 8 weeks for cesarean birth after the child's date of birth or the loss of a pregnancy. What is meant by up to?
Okay, so up to means the employee has a choice to take up to 6 or 8 weeks. The company still has to offer the full amount of paid time off to the employee. So that's 6 weeks for a natural birth, 8 weeks for a C-section. Also, if a custodial birth mother has used their maternity leave, they can follow that up with parental leave, which gives them 2 weeks paid time off, up to 12 weeks, which they can supplement then by vacation and sick time.
There seems to be some misconceptions about the new OJI language in Article 13, Section 2A. So if I am hurt on the job, what doctor may I go see?
If you're hurt on the job, your choice of physician or lack thereof is solely determined by the workers' comp laws in your state. Nothing in this TA changes that. Some states have physician's choice, where you get to go see your own doctor. Other states have you choose from a list of physicians. Some states you have to see a company doctor and may or may not get a second opinion. What this language does is targets those states where you have choice of physician. What management had been doing in some cases is misdirecting the employees to go see the company doctor first, and then in those states that have choice, they would lose their choice, and they'd have to go see a company doctor after. This is solely for those states, but everything else falls back on your state laws.
In Article 29, Duration and Amendments, what is meant by early opener?
An early opener is 12, in this case, 12 months before the contract becomes amendable. Either party with written notice can ask for negotiations to begin under Section 6 of the Railway Labor Act.
Both sides need to agree on that?
No. Either side can request it in writing, and Section 6 will begin and negotiations will start.
So the clock starts ticking and they have to abide by good faith negotiations under the RLA?
Absolutely.
The new Me Too language in Article 30 Retirement discusses differing investment funds and company contributions. How would this benefit us exactly?
So the new Me Too language in Article 30 guarantees that if any other group of employees are offered different investment funds to put their 401k contributions in, we would then be offered those same funds. It also guarantees that if another group of employees, excluding the pilots, is offered a higher 401k contribution and matched, that we will also be offered that higher 401k and matched, subject to the same terms and conditions.
Okay, Ed, in side letter of agreement 2, it talks about work rule interpretations. Why are the work rule interpretations to the contract agreed upon after the ratification date?
English is an imperfect language. You can work on something and write it and write it and write it and think that you have created clarity, and those at the table all agree, hey, this is what we were saying, but somebody else reading that may have a different take on it. And so what the work rules do is for us to sit down with the company, and if there are any gray areas that pop up or places where people aren't exactly sure what was being said, then we hammer it out. You'll see that this work rule interpretations has been done after every contract, and it's not to change the contract in any way, shape, or form. It's to clarify it. Now, there are two ways that we get work rules. One is with these meetings after the contract, which historically we have done. And the other is if we get to a point where the union and the company can't agree, then that can go to arbitration, and the arbitrator helps us develop those work rules. But we already have interpretation books. We already have work rules. This is nothing new. It's been done with every contract.
Okay, so how is this work rule different from our last contract?
Well, in this one, we set parameters. In the black book, things just kept getting pushed out, and we're like, no, that is not going to happen. We are going to make sure that we sit down within 90 days, we have these discussions, and we get these things dealt with in the short term, and we don't let anything fester and become a bigger issue down the road.
Chuck, if this tentative agreement is ratified, the maximum freight limit will increase to 250 pounds per piece. Does this change any safety practices currently in place for heavy freight?
No, it does not. We still have a required team lift. And if you get an additional person and that's not enough, you're entitled to get a sufficient amount of people to help you do the lift. And that lift can be done at the freight house, in the bin, end of the belt, wherever that you might have to lift that heavy piece of freight, you're entitled to a team lift.
So the main point is if you need help, ask for help.
Absolutely. Need help, ask for help.
Thanks, Chuck. Okay, Ed, I have another question about a side letter of agreement. This one is number 8. It's a new side letter of agreement regarding electronic OT sign-up and the electronic notification of overtime. Does this language mean that the company could notify us of mandatory overtime by electronic means?
Absolutely not. What this language is designed to do is to streamline the overtime process. With this new system, when it's created, an agent would have the ability from home to sign the overtime book or take their name out of the overtime book up until the time the book is closed. So this is designed to make it easier for you to sign up or not sign up for overtime, and it is voluntary overtime only. So if there's any mandatory overtime, we have specific rules on that you have to be called or you have to be talked to personally. This does not affect mandatory in any way, shape, or form. It is only for initial voluntary overtime call-out.
And what has to happen before this is implemented?
Before this is implemented, the union and the company will sit down, go over the process, and evaluate it and make sure that it's a program that works for our members.
Once again, phone banking will be open over select days for the next few weeks for you to call in and get any answers that you have. You can also email us at negotiatingcommittee@twu555.org and we will get you some answers.
Let no question go unanswered. Your vote is your voice. Let your voice be heard.
Stay strong,
united,
and involved.
On behalf of your negotiating committee, Chief Negotiator and President Randy Barnes, Charles Surf, Robbie Gadd, Melvin Baker, Jesus Gomez, and Ed Green. Thank you for watching this episode of Negotiating News.